Good morning, children. Saira. So today we are we'll be completing this chapter number 3, ruling the countryside. So before jumping to the very last portion of the chapter, I hope you all are conversant with the basic terms of this chapter. That is permanent settlement, Mehelwari system, Rohitwari system, indigo cultivation, who was a planter, who were the Gomasthas, and what was the bifurcation of the indigo cultivation, that is the Nij and Rohiti system of cultivations. Having a quick review on the Monroe system, indigo cultivation, which was done under two systems. I repeat again, Nij and Rohiti. Under Nij, the planters produced indigo on the land that they controlled directly, but they could not expand it on their own. That is, they could not expand their land under Nij cultivation. Fine. And after that, next, under the Rohiti system. What happened under the Rohiti system? The planters forced the ryots to sign a contract, an agreement, also known as Satta. Those who signed the contract got cash in advance at low rates. But this was not much favorable for the cultivators, not the planters. As a result, several ryots of Bengal refused to grow indigo and became violent. Next, ultimately what happened? Indigo production collapsed in Bengal and the planters had to move in Bihar. Fine. Now, after this, I will be explaining you the last portion of this chapter. So children, now getting to the textbook. After a quick revival, getting to the main point. First of all, why? There is a heading in the textbook that all was not well. What was not well? Within a few years after the new systems were imposed, it was clear that all was not well with them. With whom? With the cultivators. Driven by the desire to increase the income from land revenue, officials fixed too high a revenue demand. Peasants were unable to pay. I repeat, who were unable? Peasants were unable to pay. See here, peasants were unable to pay. Riots fled the countryside. And what happened to the villagers? They became deserted in many regions. Optimistic officials. One more important point. Optimistic officials had imagined that the new systems of world would transform the peasants into rich enterprising farmers, but this did not happen. Now, what was this concept and why actually the particular, if you can say, why did this happen? Can any one of you tell why they thought that the British officials thought that the peasants will come as a groomed layer of society? Why they thought that they will become a groomed layer of society? Can anyone tell? Because they thought that this indigo production is going to yield them ransom profits. It is going to fetch them with ransom profits. Fine children. Now, there is one more important point, that is crops for Europe. Now, what is this? Let's watch. The British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue, it could also grow the crops. It could also grow the crops that Europe required. That is the important point, that it could also grow the crops required. By the late 18th century, children, I want you to write one question, that what was the important, write the question right now. What was the importance of indigo or the crops grown in India? I repeat, what was the importance of indigo or the crops grown in India for the Europe or for the European people? Fine. So point number 1 will be, if we start with this, first point is the British. Right from here, the British also realized that the countryside, it could be required till Europe required. This is your first point. Second point, from by the late 18th century, the company was trying its best to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo. Then you have your third point. In the century and a half that followed, the British persuaded or forced cultivators in various parts of India to produce other crops like jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in the United Provinces, that is Uttar Pradesh now, wheat in Punjab, etc. These are the 3 points which are necessary. The question, I repeat the question, that what was the importance of the crops grown in India for Europe or the European people? I repeat, what was the importance of the crops grown in India or the Indian crops for the European or for Europe or the European people? Now, how was this done? The British used a variety of methods to expand the cultivation of crops that they needed. Now let us take a closer look to the story of one such crop. Okay. First of all, why indigo? When we are talking about the crop, one main important crop and its story, so why indigo? Why the demand for Indian indigo? Okay, I want you to write one more question. Question number 2. Why there was demand for Indian indigo? So the answer will be the indigo plants. First of all, the indigo plant grows primarily in the tropics. By the, you make it till here, this all. Fine. This will be the first point. The indigo plant grows primarily in the tropics. By the 13th century, Indian indigo was being used by cloth manufacturers in Italy, France and Britain to dye the cloth. Now, second point, second point is from here. However, only small amounts of Indian indigo reached the European market and its price was very high. European cloth manufacturers therefore had to depend on another plant called woad. I have given you the definition of woad also. It is a black plant. Woad to make violet and blue dyes. This will be your till woad, it will be to the indigo, and therefore it had to depend upon this woad to make the violet and blue dyes. Still here it will be your second point. Now third point, it will be from here. Being a plant for the temperate zones, woad was more easily available in Europe. It was grown in till here, third point. Now it was grown in northern Italy, southern France and in parts of Germany and Britain. Worried by the competition from indigo, woad producers in Europe pressurized their governments to ban the import of indigo. Now, cloth, only 3 points that we have marked. Now, continue, stop underlining. Cloth dyers, however, preferred indigo as a dye. Indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from woad was pale and dull. Now, what happened? What was the comparison between woad and indigo? The color, the extract of the color which was extracted from the woad was dull and pale, whereas the color of indigo was rich, bright and very shiny. Okay, so in comparison to what do you say wood, indigo was much better, and it was the preference, it was the first and the foremost preference of the cloth dyers. Next, what happened after that? By the 17th century, European cloth persuaded their governments to relax the ban on indigo import. The French began cultivating indigo in Saint Domingue in the Caribbean islands, the Portuguese in Brazil, the English in Jamaica, and the Spanish in Venezuela. Indigo plantations also came up in many parts of North America. By the end of the 18th century, the demand for the Indian indigo grew further. Britain began to industrialize and its cotton production expanded dramatically. So, yes, creating an enormous new demand for cloth dyes. While the demand for indigo increased, its existing suppliers from the West Indies in America collapsed for a variety of reasons. Between 1783 to 1789, the production of indigo in the world fell by half. Cloth dyers in Britain now desperately look for new sources of indigo supply. So, what was main thing? That indigo production, the production of indigo as well as the supply, was a basic ethic for the Indian people. It was actually in such a huge demand that people, that is these British people, wanted the Indian cultivators, the Indian farmers to grow indigo in massive amounts. Now, what happened to Britain returns to India? When Britain actually returns to India. Okay. Now, what happens when Britain turns to India? Faced with the rising demand for indigo in Europe, the company in India looked for ways to expand the area under indigo cultivation. See, children, before just scrolling with the lines, with running in between the lines, why taking just a pause from the content, why actually Britain or the British people wanted to get back to India? Why? Because India had vast land, vast cultivation, and Indian people were profound farmers. That is, they were, not profound, proficient farmers. They were very good farmers and they could cultivate indigo in massive quantity. But the only thing was, children, that was actually, you can say, which proved a disadvantage for the British people, was that indigo in the starting was appreciated by the British people, not by the Indian farmers. They thought that okay, maybe this is a crop which is going to help us out to earn money. Fine, because if you talk about the condition of West Bengal, artisans, people, everything was actually coming to an end. The people fled away, artisans deserted, and everything was on the verge to collapse. And in such a severe circumstance or situation, what happened was that people were not able to survive. They required some hope to survive, and indigo cultivation did not prove anything right. They thought it may help it, but as in comparison to West Bengal, the condition was much, you can say, severe and worse in the south, where Monroe system was introduced, where Nij and Rohiti was there. Now, what is Nij and Rohiti? See, children, Nij and Rohiti both are two types of indigo cultivation, forms of indigo cultivation. Nij, where the land was their own, the farmer had his own land, where no tax imposition was there, and in Rohiti, where somebody else owned the land and the farmers were allowed to farm or to produce indigo. Fine. In both the cases, the farmers could not have any amount, any handsome amount in their hand. They were forced to grow the indigo crop, but in the end, nothing was in their favor. That is, they could not have a good quality of amount in their hand. Okay, continuing with why Britain turns to India. Faced with the rising demand for indigo in Europe, the company in India looked for ways to expand the area under indigo cultivation. From the last decades of the 18th century, indigo cultivation in Bengal expanded rapidly, and Bengal indigo came to dominate the world market. In 1788, only about 30% of the indigo imported into Britain was from India. By 1810, the proportion had gone up to 95%. So, as the indigo trade grew, commercial agents and officials of company began investing in indigo production. Over the years, many company officials left their jobs to look after their indigo business. Attracted by the prospect of higher profits, numerous Scotsmen and Englishmen came to India and became planters. Those who had no money to produce indigo could get loans from the company and the banks that were coming up at that time. So, children, this is the story about indigo cultivation. Why? So, in the next class, I hope you must be able to answer that what was the indigo cultivation, who grew it, and where it actually actually spread from where to where. Thank you, and Sarah.